Welcome to session 10 and the last session of the PayPal story. So we'll start with a brief recap of the previous session, which had learnings for large companies and a very important COVID-19 question that any large company around the world, their CEOs or their boards, the chairmen should be asking and trying to answer. So in this concluding session, we're going to cover two things, which, in my opinion, were very fundamental to PayPal's success. And some of these apply today as well, which is why I think there are some learnings from them which can be applied today. So the first one was the concept of the infinity equation. So if a company which is trying to do something disruptive, similar to what PayPal is doing in any field, but where it wants to make small amounts of money from very large numbers of customers, then one of the things it wants to do is to try and get customers to tend to infinity. So for instance, for PayPal, if every single human on earth had a PayPal account, then moving money would be trivial, right? So, and not only every individual, but every company, right? So every institution. Now, then you could move money. It would just be a book transfer, moving money from one account to another account. And then the person who received the money could take it to a bank account wherever they wanted, right? So one of the things that PayPal wanted to look for was that how could it keep things really simple, but how could it try and get customers to tend to infinity? So that was one aspect. The second aspect was how can it get the cost to serve these customers tend to zero? So one of the things was that you had to eliminate paper. So the term contactless, etc., which is now very fashionable, is something that was there in the design lexicon of PayPal way back in 1999. So there were some missteps that we made where we started accepting checks, for instance, initially when we were in the X.com avatar, and before the random deposit invention, we had faxes coming in, and there were some paper in our processes. But gradually we eliminated all that. And this is not just no paper in terms of transaction processing, but what we want is fully digital processes for whether it is customer acquisition, whether it is fraud prevention, if you remember the IGOR system in PayPal, and so on and so forth. So essentially, what we are talking about is we want the total costs to tend to zero. Now, the advantage with digital processes is that these will move in a step function with very, very large numbers, and it may not become zero, but it will come very close to zero. And that should be the constant endeavor. Now, one of the major costs, which is difficult to drive down to zero, is customer service cost. But that also now is gradually, if your products are really well designed so that they don't really need customer service, you have chatbots or whatever else, is also an area where costs can tend to zero. You can have AI, Internet of Things, blockchain, quantum computing, whatever you want. But if the thing is very simple, where you want your customers to tend to infinity and your costs tend to zero, then if you're trying to do a model which is like PayPal, where you make very small amounts of revenue, but from a very large number of customers, then you will have a very, very tough model to beat, and you will keep growing and be well over $100 billion company. So this could apply to agriculture, it could apply to municipal services, it could apply to healthcare, it could apply to financial services other than payments, it could apply to make credit cheap. So I think the opportunities are boundless. And I just hope by people learning about disruptive innovation, and maybe these stories will help, that the world will become a better place, and uh, there will be access for everyone. I think one of the greatest benefits of customers tending to infinity is that everybody can become a profitable customer for the platform provider. So the other term I want to talk about is a term called the PayPal Mafia. And now the Mafia has a negative connotation, and people like Elon Musk, who are key parts of the PayPal Mafia, don't like the term. But I just want to use it for the fact that great teams matter. So if you look at the PayPal Mafia on Wikipedia, you'll find many members. They do not include Elon, Anita, and me. Elon, because he declined. Anita and me have not done anything significant since we left PayPal to merit inclusion in the PayPal Mafia. But the point is that what I'm trying to say, and what is the learning point here, is that if you want to build a disruptive company, then great teams matter. And I consider myself very fortunate to have been part of the 1980s with Citibank, where there were great people, and I learned a lot from them. And almost all the people who were there at that time have ended up doing very well. And again, in with PayPal from 1999 to 2003, it was really great to have worked with all the people and created something amazing. And I think all the people there benefited and went on to do something amazing. So the benefits of being part of a great team and a great culture are just not limited to the startup itself, but tend to carry on for many years in many different fields. And so how one can build a culture that spawns a good mafia, not a bad one, is something that, again, people can think about and learn from. With that, I will end the PayPal story and move on to the time after I left PayPal and before I came to India in 2004, which were a couple of years, which were also kind of interesting because I ended up joining Infosys, the Fremont office of Infosys, and also spending a year as a fellow at Stanford University, both of which were very interesting. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I will cover the rest in the next session. Thank you.